is what you can expect in the second episode of my project Building an Electric Guitar Without Electricity. I will cut out the outlines of the body with a special technique, and then I have to plane the top and the bottom to get to the next step, which will be finishing up the contour of the body and bringing the surface of the top like 1 centimeter below the surface of the fretboard. So lean back, relax, and take your time to enjoy the video. If you're wondering about the darkness, actually this is quite early in the morning, about 5 or 6 o'clock. I have to wake up that early because at 10 or 11 o'clock it gets so hot that it's nearly impossible to work. So therefore my morning routine for the next week or so will be get up very early, get some water, get the job done as long as possible, have a breakfast, and maybe go back to bed again. But now, and I am very excited about that, I have to mark the outer contours of the instrument for the very first time. And I made the decision that I will reverse the headstock. Now you can see me marking the center line. This looks quite unspectacular, but this is the most important thing of the build. Everything has to be perfect aligned to the center line. First of all, I have established and marked the center line with a pen. And now I'm taking this very long ruler. Actually, I got it from my dad, he's an architect. And then I will produce a very fine notch with my cutting knife so that the center line can never disappear. Everything that I will do from now on, it doesn't matter if it's planing, sanding, cutting, has to be in relation with this center line. And this is the most important thing. If you don't care about your center line, you get in real trouble, especially if you're building an instrument like that out of one piece of wood without having any opportunity of any adjustment. So the next step will be I have to plane the back of the plank so that I have a perfect fit on my workbench, and it's much easier to work if the plank is not wobbling around. And this is what you're going to see next. And after double checking some important measurements, I will mark the next sections that I have to cut off with my handsaw. And at this point, let me share you some thoughts. I have mentioned this also in the first episode of this build series. A lot of work steps on this project are so time consuming, and it's totally okay for me if you press the fast forward button that it's not getting boring for you. Feel free to do so. And I would also love to encourage all the people who are not subscribed to my channel to subscribe to my channel, because every time when I watch my statistics, I see like 85% are not subscribed. It doesn't cost any money, but it can really help me out making these videos. Thank you so much for your support. And once again, like in the first episode, my microphone ran out of battery, but it doesn't matter because this is a very important thing that I have to explain. What I'm doing here now is transferring my center line on the other side of the plank. It has to be as accurate and as perfect as possible, because I have to flip this plank around and I have to draw the same contours on the other side of the plank. And you can ask yourself, why is this so important? It's because when I cut the contour with a very special saw that I bought especially for this process, I have to have a control line on the one side of the plank and on the other side of the plank. I will also check this like every minute with a ruler, but I have to have a visual line that I can follow while cutting the outer contours of my body shape. Therefore, this is so important. Sounds quite complicated, but later on in the video, when I'm getting to this process, you will surely understand that. Actually, it's the same procedure that I did before. First of all, I marked the center line with a pen, and then I'm clamping down on this very long straight edge from my dad and produce a notch with my cutting knife so that the center line, even on the back of this instrument, has no opportunity to disappear. So what's coming up next is very important, and therefore I will explain it. You have seen me bringing the edge of the plank in a perfect angle. And now I'm able to measure the correct distance from the end of the plank till the beginning of my outer contour of the body that I have already marked with my pen on the top of the plank. Now I'm able to transfer the same distance from the top to the back. And this is so important because the outer contour of the body from the top has to be equal to the outer contour of the body from the back of this plank. And therefore it's so important that I measure everything like double. Therefore I'm also using two measuring tools, not just one, to be absolutely sure that nothing goes wrong. Sorry for the long explanation, but I always tend to explain everything so you can understand what's coming up next in this video. And now I have to mark the outer contours of my neck and my body on the back of this plank. Then I can start sawing out the contours and the neck profile. So welcome. This is another morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, I think. And yesterday was quite hard because I have to do a lot of sewing and planning like every day. This is really hard physical work that I have to do here. But I've chosen this way, building an instrument without using any electricity. And that's the only way to do it, just by hand with a lot of physical effort. And by the way, while you see me cleaning up my workbench, let me show you the environment in that I'm working. On the left you can see the old house of my grandparents. Actually, this house is more than 100 years old and it's built out of wood. And this is my mother's garden. And there in the background you can see my workbench. Quite a nice place to work on an instrument like that. But let's get back to work and bring this piece of wood on my workbench to get it more in shape, that it looks more like a guitar. Today it's quite a bit cloudy, which is perfect because it's not so hot, and maybe I can work like 1 or 2 hours longer than usual and I can get more progress on this build. Today it's a lot of sawing going on, and therefore I will unpack my Japanese saw. These are ones of my most favorite tools. At this point I would like to share a very special story with this pen. This pen is so old, I can remember I was about 5 years old holding this pen in my hand. And I discovered it like by accident in the cellar of my parents, and now I'm using it for this build, which is amazing because this is, let me count the years, like 50 years ago. So let me introduce you to my new saw. This will be my workmate for the next couple of hours, maybe couple of days. And this is a very special saw, and what you can see now, or better what you can hear now, is I'm tuning the sawing blade to get the correct tension. If the tension is too low, the saw tends to bend and you won't get an accurate cut. And if it's too high, it can break. But let me show you the saw blade. This is also special. Actually, it's a Japanese style. It just works when you pull the saw blade. If you push it, it has no effect. And therefore you can work very accurately and you don't have to apply any pressure on the saw blade and you will get a very nice cut. But I'm a little bit critical because I don't think that this blade is made for cutting 7 centimeters hard walnut. I'm very curious to find out how it will behave and how it will be to handle, and the most important thing, for how long it's gonna stay sharp, because I just bought 2 of them and I hope this was enough. If not, I get in real trouble. And while cutting the outer contours of the instrument, you can see me checking the correct angle after a few strokes. And from time to time, you can see me looking at the other side of the plank to see if the sawing blade is really correctly following the marking line of my pencil. And now you understand the whole procedure that I did like before, because I have to have 2 control points. One is my measuring tool and the other one is my visual control on one and on the other side of the plank. If I mess this up, my body shape gets totally out of shape, and this is what I have to avoid. And this will take a while, so I think it's time for music. Okay, just want to show you what happens all the time if you're a craftsman and working with sharp tools. You cut yourself. This is quite unavoidable, but it's always important that you clean up the wounds, disinfect them and cover them. If you ask yourself, did I ever get bored about doing stuff for hours, like in this case, I can say not really, because I tend to make some calculations. So I will give you an example. Like in this case, sawing the contours took me about 5 hours. Yes, 5 hours. So I came up with the idea counting the strokes. And keep in mind, this piece of walnut has a thickness from about 7 centimeters. And so I took 1 centimeter and counted the strokes. So you have a distance. And now it's on you to guess what distance in total, for example, 100 meters, 1 kilometer, maybe 10, I don't know, have I cut while cutting the whole contour of this instrument with this little saw. I'm so curious what you will guess. Feel free to write it down in the comments and I will release the end result at the end of this video. At this point, I consider that my sawing blade is totally dull, so I have to replace it. I have a spare one, but just one. Hopefully it will last so long that I can finish the sawing job. So after such a hard working day, keep in mind I have cut this contours for about 5 hours and my back hurts. I have to quit now. And tomorrow I will continue with sawing, but I will use my Japanese saw, just doing fine sawing stuff, which is quite a lot of fun to do for me personally. And now I will get some sleep and we see us tomorrow. Of course, very early in the morning. At this point, and this little hole worries me a little bit. If you remember in the first episode, there was a kind of a metal, I don't know, clamp installed to prevent the plank from getting too much deformation while drying out. And now I have to cut this down and see how deep this hole is. You have to keep in mind my headstock is running in this area, But I have decided to reverse the headstock, and another very good decision was that I want to make a slanted headstock, so it's not parallel to the fretboard, and therefore I think this will work out perfectly. The next thing that I have to do is very important and also a bit complicated, so I will try to explain it. I have to lower the surface of the body in correlation to the surface of the neck, actually of the fretboard, for about 1 centimeter. And I come up with the idea to glue on a straight piece of wood on my saw, so I create something like a dab stop, and I can chisel away and planing away all the wood that is not necessary having it on the top of this instrument away, and I have a visual control how deep I can go, and this is what you're going to see next. So this looks fine, and I'm always double checking everything I do. I'm double checking twice, 3 times, because if you cut one slot too deep, you mess up the whole build. And you have to keep in mind, and this is one piece of wood, and every mistake that you make can end this project immediately. So therefore I have to be focused and measure everything out like 2, 3, 4, 5 times. It doesn't matter. I have to be sure that I don't mess anything up. So this was another day of building my electric guitar without electricity project, and I've made this crisscross sawing all over the top of this instrument. Looks a bit weird, but I'm very confident that the technique will work out perfectly. Now I have to go to bed, relax, and get up very early in the morning because tomorrow it's gonna get very hot. So I think I will stand up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. See you tomorrow. So these are the tools that I'm going to use today for the next couple of hours, I suppose. Files and rasps, because I decided to make the outer contour of the body. And then after this is finished, I will remove the 1 centimeter of excess wood from the top of the instrument. I will do that by planing and chiseling it away. This is going to be a hard physical work, and the weather forecast said it's going to be very hot today. So therefore I have to hurry up. And once again, it's very important that I work out the correct angle, and therefore I'm measuring all the time. And look at this wood grain, look at this structure. This is so beautiful, and it makes me happy every time when I remove this very hard sawing marks from the saw and see the real structure of the wood. It's such a beauty, I really enjoy that. After hours of intense work shaping the outer contour of the body, now I get to the point where I have to mark the depth that I have to remove from the top of the instrument, and therefore I'm using this. In German we call it Streichmaß. It's something like a measuring gauge, and I will actually adjust this to 1 centimeter and make a little notch so I have a visual control when I remove the wood from the top, not getting too deep. from time to time, when I'm making a break, I just browse around and I'm wondering how beautiful nature can be. Look at these beautiful flowers. And actually, I am working on this guitar underneath an old walnut tree. I'm building a guitar out of one piece of walnut underneath an old walnut tree. So it's important to mark the 1 centimeter drop on the top of the instrument that I have to remove around the whole instrument. This is what I'm going to do now before I start to chisel and plane away the 1 centimeter of excess wood. And this is what you're going to see now. So my idea was to create some kind of notches all over the sewing lines that I can get in action with my hand plane. And this is a good example where you can see why this 1 centimeter notch at the side is so important. When I chisel away the wood, I have to stop at this point. If I go too deep, I mess everything up. And once again, I have to transfer the center line on the side of the instrument because I filed it away while working on the contour of the instrument, but it's so important that I get it back exactly at the point where it was before. And now it's time for my hand plane. I will now plan away on these sections that I have cut out, starting with an angle and then getting flatter and flatter till I get a perfect flat surface of the top. And this is what you're going to see now, and this is going to be a very hard physical work because it's about 35 degrees outside now and I have to hurry up. So it was impossible for me to finish this process at this day because it's getting so hot. So I decided to quit and wake up like every day 5 o'clock in the morning and continue the work. So at this point, and it's actually about 7:30 in the morning, it's getting so hot that I decided to get rid of my overall. And now I'm totally exposed to the hundreds of mosquitoes that are flying around me and bites me all the times, but I can't work in this hot overall. I have to get some fresh air on my skin. And I also like to share the result of the calculation that I asked you before at the beginning of the video. How many kilometers did I saw with my tiny saw to get the whole contour done on this instrument? This was the question. And thanks for all who have written me down in the comments what they guess. And here is the result. It's all in total 14 kilometers. It means 8.7 miles. So thanks to everybody who's watching the second episode of Building My Electric Guitar Without Electricity series on my YouTube channel till the end. This is amazing. Thank you for your support. If you want to support my channel, feel free to buy one of my guitar setup courses. They are available now. You can find the link in the right corner or in the description of this video. And stay tuned. Next Friday I will release the third part of this series. So once again, thanks to everybody. Enjoy your life, make music, have a wonderful Christmas time, and hope to see you again.